Welcome to my 30th and final daily video. This has been quite the challenge. Challenge I set for myself. Challenge to see my commitment to this YouTube thing. It's been pretty challenging. I have four small children, and kind of challenging to wake up early every morning to get these videos done. Noise from the neighbors, noise from trucks, cars, and even jet fighters. It's been fun. Now that I've completed this 30-day challenge, making a weekly video, which seems like a piece of cake now. I've had a lot of fun. I hope you continue to follow me. Please subscribe, give a like to my videos, tell your friends. There goes one of my kids. And hope you stay and continue to learn about my theory. There's still so much that I can talk about. It's a very robust theory, a theory that I've worked on for a very long time. I worked on it daily for 14 years before the conclusion of what I felt was a robust enough theory that covered all the holes. And first of all, it made sense. For the first year and a half, I was pursuing something that was untenable and had to start from scratch. First principles. Okay. Well, my name's Eduardo Hernandez. I am the creator of the latest theory in the emergence of life field called emergent chemical evolution. I'm also the author of the book by the same name, available on all major online retailers. Today's video is about the last assumption that I'm going to talk about, that origin of life, erroneous assumption that origin of life researchers have worked with. And that's the assumption that life forms, once they've have a type of chromosome, that life would be able to switch to another type of chromosome. The mechanical components of organisms that translate chromosomes are very particular. First of all, their sequences are totally unrelated in their amino acids, and any problem or change in the interpretation of chromosomes, I believe, would be an extinction event for that organism, for the individual organism. For organisms to try to change their genetic structures and not go into extinction, it's highly improbable. Like I've said many times in these videos, 99.9% of all species that have ever lived are now extinct. The tendency of any change in an organism to express its genetics in the form of an organism, of an individual organism, usually leads to extinction. The principles of evolution are clear. If your change does not benefit your survival in that instant, in that period of time, in that environment, the most probable outcome is extinction. And there ain't that many times to repeat that error, because usually that error, if it's detrimental, that animal, that individual organism becomes deceased and cannot no longer propagate that that genetic change. So to expect a lineage of organisms to change their chromosomal makeup, even earlier in life, even I'm talking about, I'm sure that these changes that they're proposing is in Luca, the last common universal ancestor. For their theories, it's a cell. In my theory, it's viral, LUVA, last universal viral ancestor. At the viral stage, many things can happen. But even then, the change of chromosomal expression and is untenable as well. That's why LUVA is makes much more sense, is more logical, because that's prior to cellular encapsulation, prior to viral encapsulation, protein encapsulation in the case of viruses. So that even among viruses, you have distinct chromosomal organization that they do not intermix. You have different species of viruses that are totally devoid of exchange of genetic information among them. Now, there are many satellite viruses that only work in the presence of other viruses, which is part of the mechanisms that my theory use in order to explain mitochondrial existence in modern cells and other organelles like chloroform that exist in plants. That kind of symbiosis is a descendant or type of symbiosis achieved by these satellite viruses that was a more complex expression of those beginnings. So the fact that the proteins of chromosomes tightly bind themselves to their genes, and the type of coiling and binding expressed in these different types of chromosomal groupings, makes it highly improbable that once you had a lineage that was archived in a particular type of chromosome, it's highly unlikely that any lineage after that would change that protein binding that caused that type of chromosomal structure. Once you got complex enough to become cellular, the cellular life forms depend on the intact structure of the cell membrane to maintain itself. And we have yet to see any type of cellular organism that could reassemble. What we have seen is simple cellular organisms capable of accepting genetic information from destroyed cells, whereas the genetic information is destroyed. The cellular structure is destroyed, the genetic information is free floating, and then a related bacteria will incorporate that genetic information and therefore make that bacteria, once it was before it was a mild type of bacteria wasn't disease-causing bacteria, but once it incorporated that genetic information into itself, then became a virulent disease-causing bacteria. That type of transformation is easily explained. That does not require a change in chromosomal organization. As a matter of fact, the type of organization, which is non-chromosomal, allows that to occur. You don't see those type of changes or incorporation direct from one organism to another. Lateral transfer of genetic information occurring with chromosomal type of organisms. You do see with endogenous viruses that they will incorporate their genetic information into the chromosomes of higher organisms. Again, easily explained if LUVA was the case, where in a viral stage of life, when these mechanisms were starting to be ingrained, were starting to be incorporated, the different types of chromosomal organization, then these viruses could have evolved methods of incorporating their genetics into the chromosomes and therefore continue to propagate and maintain the ability to incorporate their genetic information into future chromosomal organisms. But the fact remains that the probability of an organism or a species being able to change their chromosomal structure more likely will lead to extinction than branching off into another type of animal species once the cellular stage of life evolved. We still probably find that type of change might be possible within viral organisms because they maintain the ability to totally disassemble and reassemble themselves. The possibility of incorporating a different chromosomal structure is possible, and not chromosomal, but binding of their genetic information. It wouldn't be chromosomes. It will just be longer or shorter strips of DNA encapsulated and bound to the proteins within a virus, and that could easily change. And again, because it's not that complex or complicated structure for it to unravel and re-ravel its DNA or RNA, depending on the virus. So life is a beautiful, robust thing that is the most complicated mechanisms in the universe. And there is absolutely no reason why the origin of life could not have been equally complex, much simpler to emerge, and with a repeating cyclic system like emergent chemical evolution describes, it once those forces coalesce, life was inevitable. And I believe it's probably much more possible than previously thought. But being that those conditions are of a specific type, as described in my theory, the incorporation of a wet planet with a carbon dioxide laden atmosphere and the availability of amino acids made Earth a perfect place for life to emerge. That's what we need to find in these other solar systems. Is also we have the magnetic field that protects the Earth from having its atmosphere stripped away by the solar winds. There's so many things that needed to fall into place to make Earth habitable, that those are the things that we need to look for. Not just the presence of water, not just chemicals that are metabolic in nature, or byproducts. Actually, it's just byproducts of metabolism. The one thing that life needs is water, carbon dioxide, and amino acids. So, of course, and gravity, and enough water to create cyclic systems. So, I hope this video was informative. I hope you enjoyed my series and continue to stay for future videos. They are coming, and I hope you buy my book and enjoy the fruits of my labor. So I'll see you next time. Thanks.